Could the Washington Wizards sway Nic Claxton away from the Brooklyn Nets if they miss out on a center in the NBA draft? Maybe. We're going to talk about it next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Brandon Scott again, and I appreciate you guys making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, everybody, today we're going to talk about, could the Washington Wizards sway Nic Claxton away from the Brooklyn Nets if they miss out on adding a center in the NBA draft? And then we're going to look at a prospect at number 26 in Johnny Furphy, and a prospect at 51 with Tristan Newton out of UConn. So again, let's dig into it. First on the agenda is Nic Claxton, the center of playing on the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I get it. A lot of rumors, a lot of execs are saying that chances are he's probably going to re-sign in Brooklyn. But as we all know, money talks. So could Nic Claxton be a plan B option for the Washington Wizards? And could money talk? And could we sway him away from the Brooklyn Nets if we indeed miss out on adding a center in the NBA draft? So let's talk about it. So let's take a look at Nic Claxton real quick. Obviously, he is set to become a free agent this offseason. Now, looking at his intangibles, he is 6'11", and he is 215 pounds. To a certain degree, kind of a twinner, but looking at his stat line, last couple of years in Brooklyn, were in 2022 to 2023, he averaged around 2.5 blocks a game, and then this last year he averaged 2.1 blocks while averaging 11.8 points a game and 9.9 rebounds. So looking at his numbers, what do I like about Nic Claxton? Well, 6'11", I guess you round it up 7 foot, but he still has the size to be a good NBA center. If you look at it, the last couple of years at Brooklyn, now obviously his first 3 years in Brooklyn, he was a bench piece. But if you look at the last couple of years, he started every game he played. So he was a starter for the Brooklyn Nets the last couple of years. And if you look at the numbers, and especially the numbers that in areas where we need a lot of help, which is rebounding and interior defense, especially in interior offense also, those three factors, I think he checks those boxes. I mean, 9.9 rebounds a game this last year. Again, 2.1 blocks and 11.8 points a game. Now, obviously, he is a more traditional center. He's not going to spread the floor too much, if at all. So a lot of his points are going to be, lob threat or inside the paint. But, look, Nic Claxton is not a bad option. Now, like I said, the only way you consider maybe signing Nic Claxton, like I said, he's not a guy who's going to get a max contract. You're looking at, a couple of sources that I look at had him as a mid-level exception type of signing. So you're not going to break the bank to add him. I mean, he's still young. I mean, if you look at his age, and I'm pulling up now, he's 25 years old. So he's the same age as Jordan Poole, who yesterday was his birthday, by the way. But so he fits the timeline for what the Wizards are trying to do. He hasn't yet hit his prime. So there's still some development that with Nic Claxton. But again, if you consider signing Nic Claxton, that means what? That we didn't get a center in the draft. Now, if you look at other factors like roster construction, our current roster construction, considering we do have Marvin Bagley III on an expiring contract, so you have at least one more year if they don't choose to move him of Marvin Bagley III, which in his own right, he's around the same age and he fits the timeline too. So if his performance goes up, he could be a long-term piece. So that's one thing to consider. Rashawn Holmes is on a player option, so does he enact that player option? If he does, there's another body in the center position where you don't necessarily need to go out and get a free agent signing. Because like I said, I don't think they're going to be very active in free agency at all, but if you look at Tristan Vucevic, obviously second round pick, he's on an expiring contract, but I do think the Wizards are going to retain him and definitely sign him to an extension, man, because you see the potential with Tristan Vucevic. So a lot of factors a lot of things need to happen for the Wizards to consider signing Nic Claxton. The previous episode, we talked about Clint Capella, why I didn't think that was a good idea to sign him. And I'll say this, I do like Nic Claxton. And like I said, if you're even in the consideration, if you're the Wizards, if you're even in the consideration of signing Nic Claxton, because again, all arrows are pointing to him re-signing in Brooklyn. But like I said, money talks. and certain amount of money, certain vision, and as far as the organization, even what they want to kind of display for Nicholas Claxton, say, look, you're young, you fit the timeline, this is what we're trying to do. Got a new coach, got a new scouting department, got a new front office. There's just other things that could sway him. Because the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, chances are they're not challenged for anything either. I mean, they're kind of in flux because right now Mikal Bridges is a trade candidate, so they're going to get younger too. So the Brooklyn Nets are somewhat in the. I would say that the Wizards are in a better position because we finally hit the reset button and we know what we're into. We're in a rebuild. We're going into year 2. So the Brooklyn Nets are still in that gray area where we're used to being in, where we don't know if we want to rebuild, but we're not good enough to compete. So they got to figure things out too. So this very well could be a good situation for a player like Nicholas Claxton, where we don't have to break the bank to get him, and he very well can come in and slide in and be the starting center. But then, like I said, it is dependent on how bad did we strike out in the NBA draft as far as acquiring a center. If you look at this, this NBA draft, yes, it's a developmental draft, but you have a lot of sexy prospects, and I'm talking about their game now. In the NBA draft at a center position, Donovan Clingan is 7'3", 280 pounds. Zach Edey is a 7-footer plus. Both of them have the bodies to play the center position in the NBA, in my opinion. Khalil Ware is a stretch 5 who has rim protection potential. Then you look at Yves Missy, and there's a few other names out there for the center position. So this is a prime chance for the Wizards to go get a young center in the draft. So like I said, if we don't pick up a center or maybe 2 in this draft, then you possibly could look at Nicholas Claxton. And yes, all arrows are pointing towards him re-signing with the Brooklyn Nets. But like I said, this front office wants to create an atmosphere here in DC where we want to attract free agents. And I think that, if we strike out on center in the draft, and even if Richaun Holmes does not come back on a player option, you very well could go out there and go get Nic Claxton. Because like I said, he's 25. He fits the timeline. He rebounding, interior defense, and interior offense are boxes that he checks. So I would definitely go after Nic Claxton if we don't find a center in the draft. To me, he's a plan B. And like I said, roster construction is really going to dictate what moves the Wizards make. Because again, Marvin Bagley III is on an expiring contract. Do they wait and see if he takes that step and maybe he's a long-term piece? They very well could do that. Looking at Richaun Holmes, the player option. So does he enact it? I think he could, because the fact of the matter is this. In this stage of his career, will he find $12.5 million in the open market? And the chances are no. So he's probably going to enact that player option. So not to say that Marvin Bagley III or Richaun Holmes or both of them couldn't very well be dealt at the deadline, because I think they very well could be trade pieces, obviously. But, if you strike out on the center in the draft, you go after Nic Claxton, in my opinion. I said no to Clint Capella because of the age. He doesn't fit the timeline. But Nic Claxton would fit the timeline. And I think that if we could sway him with a certain amount of money and maybe, pull the red carpet out and say, look, this is what we're trying to do. And this is where you fit. I would be very diligent if that was my option. But like I said, to me, he's a plan B. And there's nothing against Nic Claxton. Is that I just think that for the Wizards to really build what they're trying to do here in the early stages, they have to do it through the draft. Like I said, I don't, obviously, if you move on from Kyle Kuzma, you have to spend a certain amount of your cap. So you very well have to go out there and spend money anyways. Not to say we got to give him a cap, a max, because I don't see that happening. But, due to the CBA, we have to spend, as you guys saw this previous season, not only with us, bringing back Kyle Kuzma, but if you look at teams like Houston Rockets, where they went out and got Fred VanVleet, when they went out and got certain, players, man, you got to spend a certain amount of your cap. So that's another consideration too, that if we don't get the prospect we like at the center position in the draft, we very well can go out there and spend money on Nic Claxton, and we don't have to break the bank, but enough to where we fit that criteria of spending that certain amount of the cap, if you guys understand what I'm saying. So, like I said, Nic Claxton is very intriguing. He fits the timeline. His play style fits what we're trying to do here as far as becoming a better rebounding team, becoming a team that can score and defend in the paint. And I think that if we don't get the center prospect that we like in this draft, you very well could go out there and spend some money and go get Nic Claxton, because we have to spend so much for cap anyways. And he fits the timeline. But that is if we don't get Don McLean or Zach Edey or Khalil Ware in this draft, or even Yves Missy, even though Yves Missy is kind of the same mold of a traditional big as Nicholas Claxton. So that's where I'm at, guys. Definitely comment below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Would you consider signing Nic Claxton away from the Brooklyn Nets if we strike out on the center prospect that we like in this year's NBA draft. And if we indeed did sign him, what do you guys see? And do you see him as a starter? How do you see him coexisting with Marvin Bagley III? Definitely comment below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. So we're gonna move into Jonathan Furphy. Very intriguing prospect that very well could be available around the 26th overall pick. So we're going to look at the plus, the minuses, the strengths, and the weaknesses behind Mr. Furphy. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. So as you guys know, I am a sports head, man. So I'm going to games all the time. Baseball season comes around. I'm going to O's and Nats, football, Defenders, and Commanders, even my JMU. Is my college team, college basketball is George Mason, and obviously in NBA it is the Wiz Kids. So I've gone through every ticket app, and I got to say that Gametime is by far the best one. But why would I make that statement? Easy. 3 main reasons. Number one, last minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets, not only for sports events, but for concerts, comedy shows, theater, etc. What else do I like? Easy. All in pricing. Talking this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout, which is something that a couple of other apps are guilty for, right? And then seat views. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you're not sitting behind an obstruction, which has happened to me a few times. So those are 3 main reasons why you should definitely consider rolling with Gametime next time you get tickets to games. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day long? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right, let's get into it. We are going to talk about Johnny Furphy. It's Murphy with an F. And this kid is very intriguing, man, out of the University of Kansas, man. So let's dive into it. Because he a lot of mock drafts, he is around the 26th overall pick. So let's take a look at his tangibles real quick. 6'9", 202 pounds. So he's looking around. He's definitely going to be a forward. Looking at the stat line for this previous season, he averaged 9 points a game, 4.9 rebounds, 1 assist, 0.3 blocks, and 0.9 steals per game. He shot 46.6% from the field, shot 35.2% from 3, and 76.5% from the charity strike, aka the foul line. All right, so let's dig into. I guess I'm gonna kind of react to a stat line real quick. 9 points. Obviously you want to see a lot more, but to me, he's more of the mold of a shooter. 46.6% for the field. I definitely like that because league averages again, for around 45 to 46%. Same thing with 3, he shot 35%, so he's around league average. And then 76.5% for the foul line. Definitely want to see him get around 80 to 85, in my opinion. Now, what are some things that I really, really like about Johnny Furphy? Easy, excellent shooter with a smooth form and high shooting efficiency. I know that word, it doesn't resonate too much with us, man, because we have dealt with the lack of efficiency from a few people on the team this previous season. So we definitely want to get better with that. But with him, that would definitely get better because he is an excellent shooter. Again, his stat line is around league average, both with his field goal percentage and his 3-point percentage. And I think that his game can translate to the next level. Also, what else do I like about him? He's a good rebounder who excels in transition. Ooh, he puts pressure on the rim. Love what I'm seeing right now from a scouting report because rebounding, especially for the 4 position, you got if you look at guys like Denny Avia, Patrick Baldwin Jr. at the 4 position, these are guys who definitely contribute with boards. But we're definitely a team that needs to get better in rebounding, man. That was definitely an issue, especially under previous head coach Wes Unseld Jr. But with Brian Keefe, that is an area that got better and is definitely prioritized with the Washington Wizards in the second half of the season. So, you look at his rebound numbers, 4.9. So you round it up 5 rebounds a game. Definitely want to see it go up a little bit, especially his 6'9" forward. But to me, he's primarily a shooter. Now, he is very athletic and he's very versatile wing. So, he's very versatile. So again, we know that Will Dawkins' company, they're going to target players who are versatile, who can play multiple positions, who, are high energy. So, which is another thing that I like about Johnny, is that he's a high energy player. He puts effort both on the offensive side and the defensive side. He's a two-way player, which I love. And if you could grab that type of player at number 26 late in the first round, that is money. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all, man. Final thing I like, a couple things I like. Basketball IQ is through the roof, man. He really echoes players like Corey Kispert, where they come from these programs, man, like Kansas, like Gonzaga, Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke. These programs, there's a reason why they're pro factories. They're able to put a lot of talent out there in the NBA because they teach high IQ players. Especially Duke. If you look at Tyus Jones, these schools, these major schools are prepping these guys for the next level. And these guys are coming out with high basketball IQ. So Kansas is definitely one of those schools. And I mean, he's got potential as a rotational defender, man. I mean, like I said, he shows great energy on both sides of the ball. So yeah, I love what I'm seeing as far as the scout report, man, and what I've seen on the tail of the tape, man, because he's a guy who's got a lot of effort on both sides, and I love that about him, man. So with every pro, there is a con, right? So every strength, there is a weakness. So what are a few things that I don't like about Johnny Furphy? Well, he does need to add weight. 6'9", he definitely needs to add weight, man, to be able to compete with stronger guys, man. Whether they play him on the wing, whether they play him with power forward, he definitely needs to add some muscle, in my opinion. Limited isolation scoring abilities. So he's not an elite playmaker. He's not a guy who's going to put himself in a position to score himself. He has to be set up. That's why I say shooter is why we'll see, especially from the shooting stats, is that he's a shooter who's going to be set up. He's not going to try to get other people involved. He's a guy who's going to be looking to shoot and score. And he's not an isolation scorer. He's a guy that, pick and pop with a big. He's definitely a guy I can see doing that. So a few more things I don't like. His mid-range game is present, but it's not his primary scoring option. That's what I'm saying. He's kind of in the mold of Duncan Robinson, in my opinion. He's a guy who's a shooter, a three-point shooter. Now, it's not to say that he can't develop a mid-range, because he does have a decent mid-range. It's not his go-to. His go-to is three-point shot. So shooting is obviously his standout skill. It's definitely the one skill that he possesses that is going to be the first thing to translate to the NBA level is him being a shooter. So, there's a few things, again, another thing to look at, defensive skills are still developing, but he is going to be a good, on ball needs a little work, but overall, his effort on the defensive side, I think, is going to make up for a lot of the technical areas that he needs to improve in. So, overall, I love what I see from Johnny Furphy, man. I think he's definitely a guy that you got to target at number 26, man. I've gone over a few other guys at 26, but he's a guy that, for a team that needs shooting, you definitely consider Johnny Furphy if he's indeed available at the number 26 overall pick. So we're going to look at number 51 overall in the second round. And the guy I'm looking at is Tristan Newton. Could Tristan Newton be the answer, or could he be that gem or that diamond in the rough that we find in the second round of this year's draft? He could be. We're going to talk about him next. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. So you're probably wondering, Brandon, what is PrizePicks? Well, it's easy. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, all you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. It's just you against the numbers, y'all. That's it. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. Don't even wait. Do it today. But there's a few reasons why you should also consider PrizePicks. Well, with the finals over now, the hoops action doesn't stop, y'all. Women's basketball is still heating up with stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves alongside greats like Breanna Stewart and Asia Wilson. You can win up to 100 times your cash just watching these ladies ball out this summer. And PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia, and then, of course, in the DMV, Virginia. I don't know yet right now in Maryland, but I know that in Virginia, I'm unfamiliar with Maryland and DC, but I know that where I live, the Commonwealth of Virginia, you are good to go. So look, download the PrizePicks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. Look, it's that easy, baby. All right, everybody, let's get into it, or back into it, shall we say? And we're going to talk about Tristan Newton. And bear me real quick as I pull up his scouting report. All right, so Tristan Newton out of UConn, man. When you think of UConn, you think of who? Donovan Clingan. You think of Stephon Castle. But look, Tristan Newton's a guy who was very intriguing at the 51st overall pick in the second round. Now, looking at his intangibles, 6'3" with a 6'6" wingspan, 191 pounds. So, the wingspan, a 6'3", yeah. But and obviously the weight, I'd like to see him probably around 200, 205. His agent is Aaron Turner. If you wanted to know that. But his stats for this previous season, he averaged around 15 points a game. So with a team, on a team with Stephon Castle, he's a guy who definitely got some points in, man. Like that. 5.8 rebounds for a guy, 6'3". Lord have mercy, I love it. 7.1 assists. I'm trying to tell you, a steal a game and 0.4 blocks per game. Now he did shoot 40.5% from the field. Obviously, league average around 45 to 46. So definitely want to see him bring that field goal percentage up. He shot 31.5% from three. So the same thing with 3-point shot. Definitely want to see that around 35, 36. I mean, by all means, shoot 45%. I mean, do the best you can. But you definitely, as far as his bottom line, definitely want to see him around 35%. And he shot 80% from the charity strike. So not bad, not bad, not bad. So again, I like the scoring. I love the rebound, especially for a guy who's 6'3". The assist numbers, I love. 6'3", you're probably looking at him. He could be a point. He could be a two guard, but I think that if you're looking for him to be a future point guard, his numbers stress that he could be, in my opinion. Now, he still has to get stronger, but what are some strengths? Well, he can finish at the rim and with some skill. He is a good finisher. 3-level score potential. I'm trying to tell y'all, man. He can flat out score the rock. Now, he does have defensive upside on ball and is a good on-ball defender, man. So he's a guy who defensively is a dog. Offensively, he's a 3-level scorer who's definitely going to get into the paint, get to the foul line. He's a guy who's oozing with potential, man. I'm trying to tell you. And if we're indeed looking to add a potential point guard of the future or a point guard prospect that we could definitely, develop into the future, he's the answer at 51, in my opinion. I think that Tristan Newton, man, depending on what we go at number 2, where we go with 26, whether we trade back into the lottery, because if we grab Alex Sarr with number 2, I don't see us trading back. But if we don't get Alex Sarr, we very well could trade back. I know San Antonio Spurs 4th and 8th are there, but kind of getting back to the point, at 51, chances are we're not targeting the point guard with the first couple picks. We're probably looking at center. Now, we could, Isaiah Collier is available. We could go there. But what I'm saying is that if Tristan Newton's there, you take that easy. You take him at 51 because you could develop him to definitely be the next point guard of the future for the Washington Wizards because he's got good size. I mean, 6'5" in shoes. I mean, he has an NBA body. I mean, 6'3", but he's still growing. I mean, I've seen 6'4", still growing, man. I mean, obviously you want to see him add a little bit of muscle, but he's got 3-and-D potential at point guard, which is something we desperately need, man. But with every strength, there's a weakness. For every pro, there is a con. So what are some things that kind of stand out to me as red flags? Well, he's a streaky shooter, especially off the dribble, streaky. So you definitely want to see a lot more consistency with his game as far as shooting because, again, he's a 3-level scorer, man. So consistency is the name of the game. Low ceiling is being a rotational piece as far as being a starter. So that's why I said maybe you very well could develop him to be that backup point guard of the future. Now, it's not to say that, scout reports and the draft process is one thing, but they get it wrong all the time. Could he eventually develop himself into a starting point guard? We'll see. Obviously, he dictates that, right? But he's definitely a very intriguing prospect at the point guard position. So I think that he very well could be a backup point guard of the future, in my opinion. Now, the one other thing to look at, high turnover rate. So obviously he's got to cut down on turnovers, man. Especially at the point guard position, man. That is the bread and butter. You cannot turn the ball over at point guard. So you definitely want to see him short it up. But like I said, man, if you indeed are trying to find that backup point guard of the future, a really good 3-and-D, 3-level scorer, point guard prospect, you make that move with Tristan Newton, man. Every time, because I think he would be a really good pick with the 51st overall pick. Because again, looking at Tristan Vucevic in his last year's draft, man, we finally have a second round pick who showed up and played. Yannick Zosa, I don't even know where he's at. If you guys have seen him, let the Wizards know that they're looking for him and they would like to know if he wants to play because we have not seen where he's at, man. I mean, last time I saw he was playing in Spain. So, well, who knows, man? He might be hooping it up in Taiwan or, well, who knows, man? But what I'm, kind of the point is that we finally had a second round pick who came in and contributed. And I think that Tristan Newton, yes. Raw, yes. Does he need to be developed further? Absolutely. But he very well could be a really key part of this team going forward. And like I said, not everybody's gonna be a starter. Definitely you need bench pieces, man. You definitely need bench pieces, guys, to be able to come in and contribute in the second unit, because the second unit is important, man. Like I said, it's very, very important, man. So he's a guy that right now I can see him as potentially being that backup point guard of the future. So you guys do a brother a favor. Let me know down below, man, in the comment section. Let me know what you guys are thinking as far as if we miss out on center. Would you reach out to Nic Claxton and see if we can sway him away from the Brooklyn Nets if we indeed do not pick up our center prospect in the NBA draft? And looking at Johnny Furphy and Tristan Newton, would you consider Johnny at 26 and Tristan at number 51? I would. So definitely comment below and let me know what you guys are thinking. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you for 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts at Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So again, everybody, I will see you guys tomorrow night for our live Friday video, man. And definitely hope everybody had a good week. So hail to the Wizards and peace. See you guys tomorrow night.